I get the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll
You there?
Hey, did you let me back
Yes.
in?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either.
Do you want to deselect your thing and try your box? I think that's what blew up actually.
Um, let's see here. I think yep, let me see here. I uncheck it, right?
Yeah.
Share. All right.
Okay, hang on. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there we are. We're live. Happy Tuesday. Sorry, was a minute late. I don't know if we were on there or not.
Oh,
Hi, Rodney.
how are you, sir?
Good. Wendy, Phil, how are you? And hey, what? Sorry about that. we Guess who got a software update today?
Is that you or me? I don't
Yeah.
know.
So that's it's good. It's cooler today, and I'm just that heat has been something, huh? Tell you.
Saturday was awful. Did you get to go outside Saturday?
I stayed in and I worked on videos Saturday. Because I just knew it was going to be kind of a blazing hot day. So
Yeah, it was a good day to
anyway,
do that.
so any hot news off the presses we need to know before we roll right into this?
I believe we're good.
Okay, here we go. Oh, look at this. Oh, great.
Hey, as long as we got that music, Andy, it's all good.
It's gonna be one of those days. Okay. Let me see. That button's there. That one's good. I can see Rodney. I can see Angie, Wendy, and Phil, and we're good. Hit me.
All
Oh, wait.
right.
I'm next. Jeez.
All right. Jumping right into what our rates are doing. Wow, look at the candlesticks for what we've seen since July 10th. You can look at that, Andy. I've got my cursor right there, starting on July 10th. You can see kind of we've had a lot of good trends to break through some of these ceilings of resistance. Like this one right here, which is the moving average. They call them the what is that? The 3 day moving average and the 30-day moving average.
Right.
These little lines are either resistance against the top or floors of support. So right now we're trying to break through this one right here to give us a little running room to keep this improvement going. You kind of see how it's bumped up against that, and we're just trying to break through that. But overall, it's pretty good. The technical news are still pretty good. 14 basis points down today, but overall, we're still expecting the rates to decrease over the rest of this year.
Over the rest of the year. Okay. Because something that really struck me as I was watching this. Are you done with the chart?
Yes, sir.
The I watched those rates, and it's not like you shouldn't watch the stock market every minute, every day, because the nature of them, they're going to bounce around, right? But I watched those numbers. It went like 714, something like that, and then the next day it was 69, and then it was less. I think it even dropped below that.
Yeah,
It's just it's amazing how much that bounces around.
it moves every day like a stock, and that's why it's so I guess market driven, with all the you remember the bank issues we had and in the debt ceiling, all that kind of stuff. So
Right. And of course, we know what's coming up. The 25th of this month is going to be
mhm.
Jerry. It's the Jerry Powell show. And
And yep, they
if you were to make a bet, what would you lay your bets on?
well, they're going to raise them.
I think so too.
Yeah,
That's just,
I mean, I think that's the general consensus is if they didn't raise them, I bet rates immediately would get better because they've already built it in.
Yeah, yeah. What does that mean when you say they've already built that in? What do you mean?
Well, they're not going, the stock market's not going to, like if me and you understand at a pretty high degree certainty that they're going to raise these rates, the market's not going to wait for that news. They're
Oh,
going to
okay. I
jump
see
in
what you're
front of
saying.
it as soon as they figure out that they think it's going to go. They're going to jump on that.
As opposed to like some sort of a surprise slap in the face kind of. Okay,
Instead of just
sense.
waiting for them to say it,
Okay, huh? That yeah. And what that boils down to is not being surprised. Did we say that? Did I say that twice? Not being emotionally jacked up because of something. They got the carpet yanked out from under them.
Yeah, you know how the stock, people at the stock market is. They think that they're going to jump on something ahead of it, to try to get ahead of anything, right? I mean,
Sure.
That's their life.
Well, and I'm glad they do it that way because, we've been able
Right.
to take. It's been self-sustaining with very little intervention for quite a long time. We're just in the middle of some intervention. I'm familiar with intervention. Another story for another day. So let's, hey, I got to do this. You should hear that with headphones on. That is killer. The music is really good on this.
makes you think you've, yeah.
This is
that you're actually listening to a news station.
I'm just telling you, the music up front and all that kind of stuff. You put headphones on, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So okay, Rodney, a little update for everybody. We know the story a little bit. Angie's husband is near. He's out tooling around Chattanooga. Wrong.
Oh,
Yeah, no, Chattanooga. And have you ever heard of Soddy Daisy? I've heard that name.
Yeah, I've heard of Soddy Daisy. Yeah,
that's
actually a city name.
That's how much? Okay.
Soddy Daisy. Yep, that's
So on today's, there's some really interesting things that I've brought for your consumption today, Rodney, and everybody else, and anybody on the replay knows that we can get a little bit weird. And when we start out with my software getting funky, now I'm in a mood. I'm in a mood. That's so just okay. So the first thing I wanted to chat about was the housing market recession is over in the new home space. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about new home and the what's the word I'm looking for? Jeez Louise. The the attitude of the builders.
The builder confidence level, whatever. Yeah.
Confidence. Wow.
You're welcome. That's why I'm here, Andy.
Back me up, man. I'm telling you.
For the big words.
I got to start drinking again. Back in September, Fed Chair Jerome Powell told reporters, this is an article about the housing market recession is over in the new home space. Top economist Ali Wolf says, and she's hesitant on what comes next. Well, what else is news? I mean, we were just talking about things being up and down. But back in September last year, obviously, Jerry says, and I hope he doesn't, if you're watching, I know that you tune in. I don't mean that disrespectfully. But the housing is going to be going through a difficult correction. We got that. And you know what? I think he was right. Things are even worse in the Western housing markets like Reno and Boise. Boise, what a hell of a story that is. Where they had not only slipped into a housing recession, but a sharp pullback in activity levels, but also full-blown home price corrections. Now, this is just a couple of weeks old, so it's still current, essentially, with what we're talking about. But this is what I'm talking about. What Rodney has been telling us for months, and it has proven to be correct up to this point, and I don't see that changing. It says we now see housing putting in a bottom, just talking about that, just only a moment ago with rates, and maybe moving up a bit. So we're watching that situation clearly. So dragging along, making a bottom. But are we in the early innings of a housing recovery? Does downside risk still remain? What do you think on that, just before we go into a couple of questions?
Sure, the downside risks still remain. Affordabilities. The downside risks for me, though, are just the affordability pieces, not necessarily market driven. Market driven as far as the home goes. I still think the home value is. I still think if you buy today, you're going to pay less today than you will in a year or two.
Yeah.
And if you want to try to time it, if we're going back like 0.05 this month and then 0.01 next month and then going up 0.3 next month, those are the you really can't time those things right now, in my opinion, but it's still a good time to buy. And you're just going to have to manage that debt later is
right.
the way I think of it.
So the question it says home builders have seen significant improvement this spring. New home sales are rising, resale are existing, inventory remains tight. Do builders expect the worst is behind them? This is a question from Fortune magazine to Allie Wolf. And her response was, during the period, quick move-in home inventory, new homes that can be moved into within 90 days, started to build up, and that made builders nervous that they had found the end of the housing market cycle, and they started to offer discounts. Because remember, that was just a couple of months ago, and there's still one builder in town. I think they're a great company, partners in building, build a beautiful product. They're giving away $25,000 and whatever you want. Right. That may have changed. It changes all the time. But they are being aggressive on trying to get people to buy their houses, or at least take a second look, Anyway, they made a decision to stop building more quick move-ins, as standing inventory can be a liability. So what an uptick in demand changed the sentiment about the market. Instead of thinking the housing market was crashing, which we know that's not happening, which helped encourage those on the sidelines re-enter the market. The housing market in 23 so far for new homes has exceeded expectations, so they're saying. It said builder sentiment turned positive again. Builders are starting more homes and are enthusiastic about the demand pool.
Nice.
The buyers are they're cautiously optimistic on what the future holds. Some are still nervous about the broader macro considerations, meaning the inflation and the way that goes. But many feel good that housing demand has held up, and this is has held up despite 6.5% and 7% interest rates. And that is worth mentioning, that people, I'm telling you,
yeah, I think is this? I bet it's a lot of the first time home buyers. It's 20-something% of those that's spending. That's a higher percentage than it normally is. Mm-hmm. With the new construction, affordable homes. Not necessarily in these large metro areas. I bet that's what's driving that number.
Right. Well, and they're telling about, and we won't go on and on about this. Bottom line is, builders are looking pretty good, but the way they incentivized people was with mortgage rate buy downs. That comes apparently in two options. Builders can often offer an adjustable rate mortgage, and Rodney's schooled us on that before. It depends on your situation if that's a good deal. That's one. And option two, builders can offer a 30-year fixed rate buy down, which is more costly to the builder, but ensures that the monthly payment is fixed for the consumer over the life of the loan. Mm-hmm. Buy down, if people are trying to, they'll flock to whoever says, I know you want a house, I'm going to help you save money.
the buy downs, closing cost. You've seen incentives for upgrades or whatever. And to me, all that has came back, but what they're not doing on a regular basis is lowering that sales price, right? So they're still trying to keep sales prices up and everything like that with these incentives versus lowering the sales price.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm paying attention to you. I'm listening, but I'm also kind of looking through this. The final thought on this. The bottom line is that new builds isn't across the country doing all that good. It's local, just like real estate is local. And here's the comment. Western markets like Austin, is that in the West? That's sort of in the South. I guess it's West. Western markets like Austin and Reno have seen home prices fall a bit over the past year, while many Midwestern and Northeastern markets are still rising despite mortgage rate shock. Why does the market feel so bifurcated right now, and should we expect stark regional trends to continue? And the answer to that, bottom line, is yes. Yes. I mean, California is always going to be more expensive. Just, it's a lovely place to be. I don't care.
You're closer to the sunshine.
I like California. I'd live there in a heartbeat if I could. It's just, wow.
It's the sunshine tax, same as Florida, right? The closer you get to sunshine.
Yeah, they used to talk about that in Colorado too. It was a ski tax up there when I lived out.
Yeah.
They were paying taxes. Everybody'd be complaining about it. It's a ski tax. Okay. Tourism does a pretty good job of carrying that load. So, all right. So the new home builders are happy. Let's talk about something else that's completely off the radar. And that is about real estate tech companies. The companies that, we've got a couple of questions we need to address here. It's by Chickamauga Lake, if that tells you anything. Oh, yeah. That name. Some are predicting home prices will sink sometime in the last quarter of 2024 into 2025. I'm going to hold off for a minute. Rodney, you had an opinion on that?
I haven't seen that, actually. I haven't seen that prediction. I've seen more of the of the opposite, actually, with everything is projected at 2024 is for home affordability to get closer in line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see but I don't see, the home prices, I don't see those going down until we get more inventory and we straighten out some of this pin-up demand, in my opinion.
I tell you what, here's what I'm betting on. I think that the economy is going to settle down. And I think that, with Jerome's doing good as good as can be expected. I think that there's just a lot of talk about real estate having a soft landing, which essentially means the economy having a soft landing. But what we've been talking about for weeks, and we've seen it, and I've got personal experience with how buyers respond to new listings, because we just sold two of them the other day. There is pent-up demand big time. But everybody's waiting for those rates to drop. Now, the question is, what's going to happen by the last quarter of 24? I bet that the economy is going to settle down. When the Fed starts cutting rates, that means mortgage rates are going to come down. When that happens, if that's managed correctly, more and more buyers are going to come into the market. And with inventory being low like it is, it's going to start forcing prices of the housing back up with that kind of, when you have a lot of demand and little supply, prices go up. And I think there's going to be a number that I surely don't know what it is, but home sellers are looking for a particular number because they said 20%, what is it? 20% of all homes are mortgaged are in that 6% range. Everybody else is well below that in the country. There's going to be a number that works for home sellers when they can say, okay, now I can buy a new place and tolerate the X percentage. So what I'm saying is prices on housing, I know this isn't awesome, but it kind of is. They're going to continue to go up. They're going to continue to go up. They're dipping now because of what Jerome and all those guys are doing. I'm sure of it. Does that long-winded thing make sense?
Yeah, all that to say they're going up.
All that to say they're going up.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the only thing that could stop us there is if something crazy happened to a job market where that was the biggest stick of the affordability piece, right? Is their income. So if, and I'm talking about like a world crisis, maybe a war with China or something, something crazy happens like that would have to stop the income piece of the affordability, in my opinion.
And that's my whole point, because if and we're going to get to this in a second, the revised forecast of Realtor.com, they expected, this ties into that, they expected home prices to rise 5.4% by the end of 23, but now they expect a 0.6 decline. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say there is it's slow. And that's what I think you're getting at, Rodney, is it's nothing traumatic. Does that make sense? If we stay away from traumatic things, we'll be all right. All right. Anyway, so that's what I kind of think. They were saying it has to do with the banking industry not doing so well in the future and people defaulting on credit card debt. I don't.
The banks are turning around. I haven't researched anything about the credit card, but the banks are a lot of news I'm getting on banks is the banks are starting to be a little bit more profitable right now.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great news. That's great news, especially taking the beating like they've been, and to have them survive nicely, it means the stress testing is whatever they're putting in place to guard against that is working. So one of the things that kind of caught my eye, there's a real estate tech company, all these startups there's just a million. We'll go through a few of them in a minute. It's called Reality. It's going to shut down after raising $100 million a year ago. All these tech startups that were in the last few years were based on the idea that they want to the goal is to cut out real estate agents, realtors. In some cases, some of these money guys are trying to cut out LOs, essentially, everybody's trying to do that. But over this last year or so, they've been dropping like flies. And I wanted to mention a few of the ones. And the reason I bring this up is this. As long as we're dealing in a market that's, I don't know that is normal, correct? It's the market now, although it's hurting, is more normal than it has been the last couple of years because things were just out of control.
Right.
There was too much, can you say too much money flying around?
It was it was too much everything. Yeah, I mean, it's, yes. It was just at an unsustainable pace.
It was unsustainable. But that's what these tech companies were basing their entire business model on. If I invest in a house in June, a couple of years ago, and in September it's worth 20% more, we can get in there and make some money. I mean, there's a lot of that. And so here's just a few. Sorry, Angie. But here's just a few of the companies that are laying off workers. Matterport, that is a big company that does the camera work on the inside of a house, so you can it's 3D. 30% of their workforce gone. That means there's no houses to have 3D work done. Open Door, of course, that goes back a little bit. Oh, not that far ago. 560 employees on Open Door. Open Door is fighting like the Dickens to stay alive. Roofstock, don't know what that is. Loft, it's a company like apartments.com, lays off 340. Vacasa, same kind of thing, sort of an Airbnb stuff. WeWork, they've been in the news, laid off 300 employees. Of course, what their big deal was that real estate companies were doing this timeshare stuff with offices, right?
Yeah.
Compass lays off 350. That's a big deal, and they're still not all that healthy. Good company, but it's based on a business model that doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what Purple is. House lays off 8% of its workforce. 95. That doesn't mean they have very many. There's only one. Homes.com, 100 employees. Ribbon was the big deal up until last year. Everybody was trying. It was a way to sell your house and buy your house without having to sell your house ahead of time. That's what they did.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're gone, but they are hurting.
Right. 170 employees is a lot of employees to lose.
Yeah, 85% of their workforce is gone. Yeah, it just isn't like it was. We're getting a little internet jumpiness there. You there? You with me?
I'm here.
Rodney? Oh, okay, good. Anyway, so I brought up that just to say they're a little bit like the canary in the coal mine.
Wow.
And if
I don't know, it's our business always is susceptible to people just jumping in and trying to make a quick buck, and then it's just like everybody does that. It's like it's weird. It's everything involved. From construction, roofing to selling, and mortgages, everything.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point. They're first one in. Or they're in when it's hot, and as soon as it starts to cool on, they're the first one out. They're taking their $90 million and going to do something else with it. And all I'm saying is, and I think this is my whole point when I was reading about all these companies that are dying off, and some will come back, some won't, some will figure out what their mistake was and get better, right? But it boils down, the real estate business keeps coming back to the basics, and it's one client in my case, a realtor that helps them through the process. And for lenders, it's one client and that lender helping them through the financial process that keeps working,
Right, yes.
In the end, that's what keeps working. I mean, Zillow is now kind of, and I like the company. I'm not talking about the real estate side. Can't do that. But they're actually kind of getting kind of scrappy. Apparently they're losing agents. And they're doing what they can to try to get agents back. And again, what are they trying to do? They're trying to cut out the middleman, which is us,
Yeah, and from that article I want to read, it said the real estate buying and selling process, more transparent, honest, and professional. That was their goal, is for the real estate buying and selling process to be more transparent, honest, and professional, and they're out of business. So I'm like, all those slogans are nice, but honestly, how you take care of a client's like we always did. You talk to them, you figure out what they want, and use all this technology. We have crazy good technology, Andy, to take care of it and make it easy for them. But you still have to talk to them and figure it out. Figure out what they want, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, in the end, it's like whenever I make a big purchase, like, I bought a car recently. Is it a huge purchase like a house? No, but I had questions. And and the comparison would be, I see ads for Vroom, and Car Gurus and, all those car apps you can buy online, the Carvana, the vending machine thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of that. The only thing I use those things for personally, and I guess this is a testimony to person buying, is that there wasn't anything that made me feel good about looking at a car at Carvana and buying it and hoping for the best when it gets here. What are you, nuts? I'd like to hear the engine, what? Golly, I'd like to sit in it and see how it smells, There's just, and I'm sure they do good business, but not for me. And so,
I've bought cars from I don't care about a car. I can buy a car from the internet. I bought my last couple from the internet. Never drove them, never seen them. Just had them delivered. Yeah.
And it sounds like it's always worked out for you.
It's fine. I mean, if it's not one, one of them was a used one, was a couple years old. So I had, they have those dealerships, they'll take somebody with a camera around it and just give you a video of it, like up close and everything for it. So. Right.
Well, I guess, that there you go, car salesman. There you got two different people, two different markets. Yeah. You're ready to pull the trigger and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Some people like to drive them. My wife goes crazy. She's like, I can't believe you buy a car and don't drive it. I'm like, I've drove 100 cars. I know what it's going to drive like.
Okay. Well, anyway, but that's my whole point. So let's jump into, I'm going to try something here. Now, this is where I told you it was going to be a weird day. I'm going to jump down to industry news. I sent you that link. And it says there's a new, I have to be careful on this. And maybe I'm not going to bring it up. No, I'm going to go more mainstream. Revised forecast, a sign that spring was more showers than flowers. This is coming from Realtor.com. And we touched on this a minute ago, that the company's economists are expecting a negative price growth, -6 instead of 5.4. Realtor.com's original 23 forecast released in November 22 predicted inventory would be up 22.8%. That didn't happen. Several factors contributed to the downward revisions, including recent price trends and loss of momentum at the end of 22. So we were talking last week, I think, how companies, and these are good companies, they mean well, they're just reading the data the best they can, constantly in flux, constantly.
Yeah, and plus, what is it? You had a good thing on that data. Plus, the CPI data is so pretty old, right? It's already is it a month old?
The CPI for now is just a week old.
Okay,
the inflation numbers just came out like a week ago.
Okay,
and we're at 3%, which is, relatively speaking, better than 9% last year.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to keep hitting it to try to get to that too. Anyway, so Daniel says the cause for the downturn in the inventory is inventory lost momentum in the last months of 22, resulting in lower starting point for 23. And then existing homeowners made the situation worse by sitting on the sidelines. We've talked to that to death. but I don't blame one of them.
Right.
I don't. I've limited the number of the houses on the market. So, and it says now that prices have started. Now this is a couple of weeks old. This article is. Now that prices have started cooling, we expect that they'll continue to do so until the fundamentals are back in line. That's what we were talking about a minute ago, when things settle down. Specifically, the share of income spent on housing needs to return to historic norms. Because I tell you what, one of the things to keep an eye on is wage increase versus the home price increases. Whew. Right. They're not even anywhere close to in line, which they couldn't be.
That's what's killed us. That was one of the big three things in the affordability crisis, right? Home prices have gone up, wages have not matched that, so the housing debt ratio is out of whack.
And what was the big three?
Well, the rate, right? Yeah, I mean. We don't
get the big three on how we can fix the housing problem.
Rate. Yeah.
So we'll touch on this and we'll move on. On a more promising note, Realtor.com, it's just like ping pong. On a more promising note, Realtor.com is now expecting mortgage rates to settle around 6.1 at the end of 23. In its original forecast, it expected rates to end at 7.1. I'm thinking 50-50.
Well, yeah, I mean,
this is dang near August.
Yeah. Everything is pointing towards our rate should be lower, except like next week, they're going to be, they're going to raise, the government's going to raise and keep trying to curb the inflation, which is going to hurt our rates right now. So,
right. And so that leads us to one other thought, and I don't know, we'll spend a bunch of time on this. But I'll tell you, Rodney, I really appreciate your insight on this stuff, because there's no having a handle on this. What's having a handle on it?
Having a handle is reading last week's and seeing how much they changed from last week to this week, right? I mean, that's the handle. It's like we knew what we said last week.
Yeah, because they wanted to take a loan. Oh man, Angie's talking about her husband trying to buy a truck, and it was denied.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, some of those things they want you to finance them.
Yeah. I didn't run into that. I bought mine cash, and they complained, but I was like, hey, take it or leave it. Money is portable.
Yeah. Complain about cash. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it says, here's an article. Is the housing market backsliding? Well, I think it might be a short one this week, because it's getting weird up here. Getting weird. But mortgage rates jumped to a new high, and that's not even the worst news. Don't panic. All eyes are on the mortgage rates these days as they zigzag between bad and awful. They may have just reached utter misery level. Where's our guy? Where's our crash guy? We got to call him out on that 25, 35, 40%.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. You. So here it says, but believe it or not, interest rates pushing 7% might not be the biggest hurdle today home buyers are facing. While affordability continues to challenge the buyers, the lack of inventory is likely to be the key issue. Boy, we could talk this to death for eager buyers, as it keeps upward pressure on prices while limiting buyer choices. Well, there you go, Danielle. And hey,
now you got to go ahead and finish this one up with the very last sentence of this article. But
I'm not done yet. To help buyers and sellers get the temperature where the market is and where it's going, here's the latest real estate statistic. Let's see if we can't find that. Bing. Median listing prices down 2%. Minor. New listings down 27%. That's significant. Time on the market up 13 days. Huh. Mortgage rates up. It is that. So, that's the trend. Still, that's the trend. The new listings. I mean, people are, yeah. All right. So, Rodney, hit me with the last.
Well, the course the article says is the housing market backsliding, right? Mortgage rates jump to a new high, and that's not even the worst of the news. And then it says, despite the year-over-year dip, June's median home list just went from 445 up slightly from 441. I'm like, come on. Your headline is the opposite of that. So
is that clickbait? Why they got me.
Yeah. But you've talked about it. Another good part about this, where buyers can find relief. Where we've talked about it. Builders are offering some good incentives. And you've said it before. It's not in the article, but it should be. If you find something that's on the market for a few days, you'll have a chance to negotiate for it.
100%.
So
100%.
I do like that. I do like that. I do like that there is. They are giving some glimmer of hope. In the job markets. They're saying that's ongoing resilience, and of course they have to have that to be able to afford the house in the first place. So
yeah, absolutely. And the economy overall, from that perspective, it's not only resilient, but I mean, it's more than hanging in there. Yeah. I mean, there's money out there, and there's always deals to be found. I am telling you, this is just my opinion, but it's a reasonable one. If you want to overpay for a house, here's how you do it. You respond to a person, you respond to a home that comes on the MLS at 1:00 in the afternoon. You're in that house at 1:30 or 2:30 that day, and you're trying to make an offer to buy that house before the end of business on that day. If you want to pay the most you can pay for a house, that's how you do it. Jump on stuff too fast.
But dang, how do you do it? How do you do it for the person that, like, I've got one that's lost 2 offers. I've got a buyer right now that's already lost 2 offers over the last weekend or two.
Well, that's a realtor question, and I don't mean it's not an open forum, but there's I'm not passing judgment.
Yeah.
But there's ways to get sellers to listen. There's ways, but you can't beat heavy cash. And if you're coming in with if you're competing with heavy cash and no time to, I mean, like they can close in 2 weeks and
no contingencies. Stuff like,
they're gonna just win, because if you were the seller, you'd take that too,
Right. Yeah.
But if you're I'm gonna address Angie's comment here in a second. But if you're competing with other people that are getting loans, there's ways to beat it, because there's just so many sweeteners you can provide to a seller as a buyer. So many, like paying for your own title. More often than not, you have to have an appraisal, or if you don't, you have to be willing to take the hit if it comes in low. You can have pass and fail inspections. That's where you have an inspection. I mean, I always vote for having an inspection, but you're telling them up front, we're not going to ask for anything. If there's a deal breaker in there, we're going to have to talk then. But pass fail means they have the inspection. If something blows up, we're out of here. And if it doesn't, we're not asking for anything.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fair. And sellers can, unless they're trying to hide something, and I don't not trying to make them up for the bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to hide something. Somebody generally will want to get an inspection or appraisal. I mean, it's hard to, you can't really,
Yeah. You show me a person that's short on details, and I'll show you somebody that's got a problem they're not wanting you to know about. But anyway, there's that's my favorite thing is negotiating that winning stuff. I love that. So let's read that. I want to read this real quick, and I'm going to just touch on a couple of things before we blow out of here. That's the wrong one. My husband was talking to a solar salesperson at Home Depot. He said not interested in removing. She gave him his number and said to call him. They can't find anything in our city. What is that? What? Oh, about when you're getting ready to move, that they may be interested in what in your house. That's what I think you're saying.
Oh, they can't find the property.
Got it. Okay, the solar guy can't. But if you wait, then you have a bidding war. I'm going to answer this. I don't know where that comes in on our conversation.
It was when I said when we were talking about the offer, don't come in immediately.
Correct. Because that's where the bidding wars are. They're up front. Now, sometimes you can, after a property's been on the market 7, 10 days, 14 days, 20 days, whatever the number is, sometimes you'll find it's a weird universal thing. If you submit an offer, somebody else will submit an offer too. You know what? And I've listed enough houses that it does work that way sometimes. People will accuse listing agents of making that up. There's ways around that, but it does happen. But your likelihood of multiple offers goes way down if you wait for the property to be on the market for a minute. Okay, let's do just a couple more, and we'll get on out of here. So I'm having too much fun, and I don't know how I'm gonna. Let me ask you this, Rodney. Have we talked about just what's your thumbnail sketch on assumable mortgages? It says low rates, but it's complicated.
It's always a good topic, but it's never feasible. I've never done one in the history of my career. I've never had someone to assume a mortgage, and the main reason is it's the equity. It's like, people think, well, I'll just take your mortgage over. Well, you've had that for 15 years and it's 3%, and I only owe 100, but you're buying it for 500. So you've got to give me 400, and it's just not feasible. I've never seen it done.
Okay. Because it's starting to get bounced around, there's starting in Reddit, well, what about assumable mortgages? Because it sounds like cheap, it does.
It's always thrown around. It's easier for veterans, and they still don't do it. It's easier for veterans because the veterans can assume a veteran's loan, and there's some of it even can get released back to the original person. That's the easiest way to do one, but I haven't even ever done one of those in the past 15 years I know of.
And that tells me everything I need to know, that if it's not client favorable, then you're not going to do it. And it says Angie here, she's the solar people, they wanted to buy her house in their city for cash. Well, that's great news. Good for you. Hang on to those folks. Hang on to them. Here's going to be my last question, and if it's not, I'm just going to try it. There's a new report out, and this speaks to, remember we were talking about the real estate tech companies, how they're just flaming out because there's just not enough margin. It's not working. The canary in the coal mine, that kind of thing. They're dying off. Maybe that's a bad metaphor, but anyway, so there's a new report out that calls out marginal agents. And then the question is that fair? If we went and looked back the last 3 years on the number of real estate agents that came into the business, it would blow your mind.
Yeah.
So the question is it fair? The answer is, in my opinion, it's absolutely fair. Because if you want a transaction handled properly, you've got to call out people that aren't doing that. I'm not saying anybody good and bad, indifferent. It's just that, and I'm going to leave this alone because I can tell that I'm uncomfortable with it. Here's what I'm saying.
I'm fixing to jump in here and mix it up with it.
Hit me.
There's two things. Is it fair to call out marginal agents? I'm going to say no. And for one, I'm going to say that what is a marginal agent? Is a marginal agent somebody who wants to work in the real estate industry, and you know how hard this business is to get going? You know how hard it is to stay in the business. It's a commission only, tough. You've got to be on your game to stay in it. So, I think it's a little unfair to call out because, one, it takes a long time for somebody that wants to do this to do it. Now, you mentioned something kind of different. You mentioned somebody who doesn't do it well. Now, I don't think necessarily a part-time agent or a marginal agent is what they're referring to, or somebody who doesn't do a lot of business. I'm not saying they are, but they could be good. They could have good intentions, and they could understand the market enough to know what's going on locally in their area to help their customers. Okay? That's where I think you shouldn't call them out. Now, if it term means for somebody who doesn't put the proper time in, who doesn't care about their customers, who's going to just take the onesie and twosie and do it and don't care about rules, regulations, or anything else, or the professionalism of what a real estate professional does, then yeah, that's fair for them. But I guess for the people who are actually trying to do it for the right reasons and may not just be greatly successful at it, if their intentions are good, I can give them a break.
I tell you, because this industry is loaded with high quality people. I'm telling you, it's an amazing thing how the people are really good. And I'm talking about behind the scenes, not in the sales environment. They're really, really good folks. The only comment I have about this, and this is what caught my eye. Over the last couple of years, the environment was completely different from what I grew up with back in 2005 and on, because we had to sell real estate in an entirely different way than the last couple of years. Because the last couple of years, literally, MLS, people were taking pictures of houses with their phones.
Yeah.
With their phones, and bad pictures at that, just, and the house would still sell.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right.
Now,
right. Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about, to take a bunch of folks that thinks that's what the real estate business is and inject them into what we got now. That's where you're going to run into problems. That's
correct.
All I'm saying.
Anytime the agent or even I'll say this about LOs as well, when they enter a market, it's always in some kind of stage, right? So if you've entered 4 or 5 years ago or 3 or 4 years ago, and these listings and all these buyers were falling off the tree, yeah, guess what? Now it's like they have entered a new business last year or whatever. It's really like they've started a new job. So just like we did and everybody else knew in every other industry there is, when something shifts, you just kind of shift with it and make the change with it and go. So,
yeah.
But I get it. They're never going to be, like you love negotiating, they're never going to be as good as that because they don't have the hundreds of opportunities to do that. that's where, they lack the experience, the knowledge, that they haven't been through, like your training that you got, the leadership that you was under for a long time, and then being in the business for 20 years. They're nowhere close to your level, Andy. I mean, I get that. Hell, we all started somewhere, though,
Yeah.
And if they didn't come in like this, it would be a dying business.
Yeah.
We,
And I guess the bottom line is, and this is what calling CULL, calling out a crowd is about, because the people that are willing to learn a new trick, a new perspective, learn how to sell real estate. I mean, it shocks me because I'm on Facebook with some real estate groups, and it's like, oh, my listing won't sell. What do you think the problem is? Well, gee,
if you took that number and lowered it.
It's just that simple,
Yeah.
But it just takes, but I'll be honest, in the beginning, I was nervous in the beginning, but now I remember I'd been in the business 1 year and a half, and a guy drove up, and we'll end with this story. Here's the story. So I was in the business for one year, and a guy drives up from Texas, millionaire. I didn't know this, but that's what he was. And we went in and we bought a house he bought one in Governor's Club. And the Governor's Club, for anybody not familiar with that, is a very well-to-do area in Williamson County. It's just a really nice place. And he bought a $2.1 million house that was owned by the guy that started ADT, the security company.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. And I mean, it was gorgeous. But this guy was a multimillionaire, and his wife, for one reason or another, decided after we're under contract, she didn't like the house. And so they said, we don't want that one. We want the one up the street. So I'm in business 1 year, and I have to kill a $2.1 million deal over an inspection report that wasn't terrible, but you can do it here in Tennessee. And all I'm saying is that experience gave me such courage moving forward, because from then on, I was always able to think, hey, if I can kill a $2 million deal, I can handle this $400,000 one.
Yeah. And that $2 million deal was it was several years ago when $1 million houses were nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did. And they bought one up that was same price. It was up probably 8 houses up the street, but
yeah.
Anyway. So, hey, that was fun today, Rodney. I didn't like that. I should have kept my mouth shut on that last one.
No, it's no, it's we all have different perspectives. That's what's so good about it is I get it. But my thing is, it's I think that term marginal, if you say marginal and you mean bad, then of course. But if you're just talking about somebody getting started and all that, you see how it is, because it's tough to make that leap from going from, they have maybe a real estate, they want to get in the business, but they don't want to go all the way down to zero on their income. So they're going to have a second job for a while.
Yeah. It'll all work. Well, any final thoughts?
No, good. Thanks for Angie, Phil, and Wendy with the comments in there, keeping us going.
And I guess I'd like to address this one thing before we hang up here. Rodney, I don't think you'd be involved. He's talking about the assumables, because there's no financing on the assumable loan, right? Is that right?
Yes and no. I think I'm not sure if he's talking about that. I thought he was talking about where. Oh yeah, okay. He's talking about assumable. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. I haven't ever done one, but I think I actually resubmit that to the loan company. and do stuff with them. I don't know what it is. I've never done one, but I think there is actual work you have to do with that.
Right. Got it. Well, Rodney, thank you. Angie, thank you. Philip, Wendy, thank you. Blessings to your daughter. It's been pretty good for that. Anyway, so you're talking about wraps.
Wraparounds now. Huh?
Yo.
That's I thought he was talking about the
Just call me Andy Jay-Z. I don't know what that is.
No, the other wrap, like the chicken salad wrap.
That's lunch sounds good. All right, thanks a lot, everybody.
Mortgage. I think that's what he's talking about.
Oh, got it. See you next week. Bye, everybody. See you.